Good morning, one and all, and welcome back to another week here at the Damage Report. I'm John Arola. That is the host of the Habituation Room, Francesca Fiorentini. How in the hell is it going?
It is going, yes. I am so excited about another week of news.
What if I told you that we've got fun stuff to talk about?
Then I would, okay, good. Because
I will keep it real. Sometimes the news is a bit of a downer, but we have some prime opportunities on today's show to do things. Among them being making fun of Nikki Haley, that's gonna be fun. Countering some of the lies of Joe Manchin, I'm up for that. Bad news for anti-drag folks, oh, that's sad. Lauren Boebert trying to look tough and immediately making a fool out of herself, always down for that. And conservatives criticizing Donald Trump does not happen often. All of that's just in the first hour.
Okay.
Yeah,
you turned me around a little bit.
Okay. Get hyped. In the aftermath, and so those of you listening, watching on the linear platforms, listening to the podcast, you might think, but I'm not gonna be here for the aftermath. But you could be. You could watch the content on our YouTube page. It's all made available. We're gonna be having an interview with Allegheny County District Attorney candidate Matt Dugan. Gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna be talking about a Democrat turned Republican in the race. We're gonna be talking about sources of funding, the crime wave that's apparently affecting the area. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And Link apparently has become a trans icon. And I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom, so I'm here for it. I'm ready to talk about that. And we have an actual, almost literal dance battle coming up in the aftermath. So all of that to come. So everyone prepare yourselves and prepare your like button by hitting it as we jump into this. And you can send us comment tweets, super chats, all that. And Francesca and I will respond as we go. But with all that said, Francesca, are you?
No.
That's funny, Kyle. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready to go.
I'm gonna need you to be. Okay,
I am.
We got a lot to talk about.
Okay.
We'll start right now. So let's jump into this. CNN gave a town hall to Donald Trump, and as a bit of cover for that, they now need to, I guess, give some town halls to other Republican candidates. And Nikki Haley is the first up. So she is technically really running for president, sort of, a little bit for right now. And so she's being asked the tough questions and being forced to pretend that she's gonna really answer them because she really wants to be president and thinks that she could be. So anyway, here she is being asked about abortion, and she wants to set a little bit of common ground for all of us to agree on.
I think we can all come together and say any woman that has an abortion shouldn't be jailed or given the death penalty. Can't we start there? Can't we start there? Because what?
Yeah, what? Why are you acting as if you're the one who's sure of that and we're still debating the topic? Yeah, no, I want to be really clear if it wasn't clear before. I don't want people killed or jailed for having an abortion. To be clear, I don't want anybody to be killed or jailed for abortions. Can we agree on that, Francesca? Can we at least agree on that?
You know that on God's round earth, can I see some nods for the round earth? We won't execute women for deciding that they don't want to be parents. Can I see some little slow clap? Was Hitler a bad guy? Can we say he's a bad guy? Bad guy. Do I get a? Yeah, okay, good, all right.
Tough crowd.
Well, yeah, ooh, like it's just. The bar is so low, and that's amazing because and I'm sorry, but it's CNN. So it's gonna be a question on the panel, like in the actual like Republican primary debates for president. It's gonna be, how should women be punished for having abortions? Do you believe in just regular execution, or are we bringing back the firing squad since we're bringing back criminalizing abortion? You know what I mean? Like Tapper was the lead on that in 2016, being like, I'm sorry, can everyone respond to Donald Trump's wall? How high do you want to build this wall? Ted Cruz, you go. And everyone's like, okay. We will never forget, Jake.
Yeah, they addressed it like a poker game where they're each like raising each other another foot.
Yeah.
So look, she wants to seem reasonable, and I guess she's one of the Republicans that doesn't want people to be executed for abortion. So she is comparatively reasonable, I suppose. But how reasonable? Because you might think when she sets such an obvious starting point as the common ground to seem reasonable, that might be an indication that if you dig, maybe she's not actually that reasonable. Well, Jake Tapper is going to attempt to dig. Let's see what he finds.
If a 6-week ban theoretically came to your desk, would you sign it?
But why? I will answer that when you ask Kamala and Biden if they would agree to 37 weeks, 38 weeks, 39 weeks. Then I'll answer your question.
Oh God.
Okay, but why? Wait, why is that what we're doing? Jake Tapper's not running against you, I don't think. I'm pretty sure it's you that say that you want to become president. Let's be real. You're trying to be Trump's VP and you're probably not even going to get that.
Yes.
You're going to use this to sell some books that you didn't even write. So credit to ChatGPT for the profits it's about to earn. But you're the one that says you want to run for president. So theoretically, the way that this typically goes is you're the one who would answer the questions about what you believe. And particularly when you're being asked to just say whether you support an incredibly radical move, like effectively outlawing abortion. A 6-week ban is an effective ban entirely. That's what that is. That's why they choose 6 weeks, not because they have some sort of like sonic fascination with the electromagnetics, like pulse that they call a heartbeat at 6 weeks. No, they did it because they think most people won't know that they're pregnant. So do you support that? Oh, you're not gonna say. Well, if I'm worried about my rights as a person, I kind of have to hear that as you would, because I don't want to just gamble on mine and other Americans' rights. So that's what you are deciding to send in your quest to look tough compared to Jake Tapper or something?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I guess this is where the media, when it comes to like Republicans these days, it's like we push them off the ledge, you know? I mean, I say as if we ever got a shot at interviewing Nikki Haley, we'd actually ask her real questions. But again, you see what Jake Tapper is doing. He's saying, here's the most extremist thing that's happening across the country. Would you sign that bill? And instead of answering it, because she is not a true believer, right? She's not a true handmaid, right? Unlike some others, and like maybe a Christine Noem, which to be honest with you, I'm gonna take the Nikki Haley over the Christine Noem. I'm just gonna be straight up. So she's of course hedging and lying and hemming and hawing and sort of like, I'm not gonna answer that because she knows how incredibly unpopular an abortion ban is. But notice again how we take the most extreme position and ask, what are you gonna do with this? Do you agree or you disagree? As if it were a baseline when it's not. It does not reflect what most Americans think. So the question isn't, how can I push you into actually trying to side with the most extremist base? It is, hey, Nikki Haley, like the majority of Americans believe that Roe v. Wade should be reinstated and didn't believe that it should be overturned. How are you going to represent them? That's the question.
Yeah. There are some Republicans who are pushing for something, a 6-week ban that is wildly unpopular. Would you actually stand against that, or would you go along with this radical? Like you could do that. And it's not like it's a debate. It's not like some polls show that it's unpopular and some show that it's popular. It would be unfair to take sides. No, this is very well established. This is many steps past what people are comfortable with. But no, Jake Tapper's not gonna do that. Anyway, let's move. So if she is hemming and hawing, we've got the hem. Let's move now to the haw. Okay, I always prefer the haw. Anyway, let's move to that. Nikki Haley during her CNN town hall was asked about gun control, trying to get an idea of would she break from other Republicans when it comes to that sort of topic. Let's take a look.
Some states have been experimenting with red flag laws, which enables law enforcement and the courts to temporarily either remove guns or block people from being able to purchase guns, individuals who have been adjudicated in some way from posing a threat to themselves or others. Is that something that you might support?
No, I don't trust government to deal with red flag laws. I don't trust that they won't take them away from people who rightfully deserve to have them, because you've got someone else judging whether someone should have a gun or not. It is a constitutional right that people can protect and defend themselves. What I want is the feds to do their job. What I want us is to take illegal guns off the street. What I want us to do is deal with mental health the way it deserves to be dealt with. And what I want is for us to have the backs of law enforcement so that they can do their jobs.
Now, if you've been following politics for some time, you might, from the beginning of that little clip of Nikki Haley to the end, already begin to suspect that there's a few issues with the multiple different things that she is claiming to believe there. So it is very easy for her to come out and say, no, I don't support red flag laws because I don't trust the government to decide who can have a gun and who can't. But bear in mind, that is a very broad statement. It's the sort of broad statement that you might come to regret far in the future. Like for instance, 10 seconds later, when you're saying we need to take mental health seriously and we need to support the police. Okay, well, question. How are you gonna take those things seriously? How are you gonna support the police when, let's say, the police believe that someone is an imminent threat and their guns should be taken away? Damn, the government can't be trusted to take it away. Let's take mental health seriously. And do what exactly? Do a PSA? Because we know that we're not gonna be taking guns away from people who have serious mental health difficulties that might make them a threat to themselves and others, because that's what red flag laws are. So what you seem to want to do is, we're gonna say these things about mental health and cops, and then we're just gonna leave everyone on their own and hope that things work out okay, because I know that I'm supposed to claim that the government can't decide who gets a gun and who doesn't. First of all, why are we blocking 10-year-olds from having guns? Seems like that's the government choosing who can and can't have guns. Why are we banning people in prison from having guns? It seems like that's the government choosing who can and can't have guns. And you might say, well, obviously you're allowed to have some sort of common sense restrictions on who has guns. After all, the Second Amendment doesn't go as far as that. Well, then why exactly are the red flag laws long? The Second Amendment doesn't say anything about prisoners, and it also doesn't say anything about mental health problems or domestic abuse. So why is it that you can ban guns in the former case, but not in the latter case? Especially when we know how often domestic violence is a precursor to fatal gun violence inside of a home. So again, there's no thought here because there's not supposed to be thought. She's not expressing actual beliefs, actual principles. She's saying what she thinks she's supposed to get a position in the Trump administration.
Yeah, and I think it's even worse than just doing nothing, right? I think there's something really implicit about saying we have to support our police and also take mental health so-called seriously. Now, when progressives hear mental health seriously, we think, yeah, expanding services and treatment, accessibility of meds, right? Like all these kinds of things. No. When they say cops and mental health, they mean lock them up. Just round them up and lock them up and throw away the key, and we don't have to think about people's mental health issues anymore. Ta-da, it's done. And sadly, a lot of folks, a lot of liberals also espouse similar beliefs, right? It's something that across the aisle, people are in agreement about the prison industrial complex. Amazing how that works. So, and the other thing about this is like how she can say this in terms of like the role of the government, red flag laws. It's not a random cop choosing, like based on, I don't know, that they didn't like the way you look, although they do that all the time, about who to take guns away from. It would be, let's say I am the victim of domestic violence, alerting folks to my husband, to my ex-husband, to a boyfriend, to, I realize I'm naming male roles mostly, but let's be honest. It is friends and family of people who could be violent and armed, and they don't have any recourse. So they're alerting the authorities. That's how red flag laws are getting implemented. It's not just the government deciding, opening a phone book and then just like, choosing.
100%. I want to follow that up in 1 second, but I want to get to just a little bit more of her on guns. And then I want to ask what should be a pretty basic question to Nikki Haley. And we'll try to speculate about what her answer could be, but let's go into this first.
We should make sure there's the clear bulletproof tape that we have at courthouses and airports. We should have that on our schools to protect them. And we should have a mental health counselor at every single school, not a guidance counselor, but a mental health counselor. Then we need to make sure that the feds actually vet properly. When I talked about the church shooting that we had, that murderer, when he went to go buy a gun, because the feds didn't do it in the time allotted, they gave him the gun anyway.
Okay, so going right past the bulletproof tape, I don't know what she's talking. It's some sort of metaphor or something. I honestly don't know what she's trying to say. But anyway, let's jump to the other stuff because she says if I had been in charge, these shootings wouldn't have happened. The feds would vet people properly. And the church shooter, I'm honestly, I don't even know which church shooter she's referring to because we have that many church shootings in America. So you're gonna need to be more specific, Nikki Haley, because the gun control status quo that you favor results in so many church shootings that I don't know what reference you're making. But let me follow up about what she said. The feds need to vet people better. Kind of sounds like you're saying the government should choose who gets a gun and who doesn't get a gun. Who exactly do you think the feds are? Do you know what Fed is short for? Yeah. Government is in it actually. So why exactly would the feds be allowed to choose who gets a gun or not in the case of a background check but not a red flag law check, which is just a later background check based on new information. She said that if the church shooter had been stopped, it wouldn't have happened. How dare they take away an American's gun rights? Because again, the Second Amendment doesn't say anything about whether you've made violent threats before. So I have a very simple question for Nikki Haley. If somebody says, I'm gonna shoot up my workplace next week, now I'm off to old Bob's gun shack, who are you to stop him? Why should anyone stop him from getting that gun? Because the Second Amendment doesn't say anything about posts on Twitter. It doesn't say anything about imminent threats. It says it shall not be infringed. And yet you obviously think it should be infringed in certain cases. So now all we're talking about is where the line is drawn. And we as a people get to decide that. And I would argue that most people do not agree with you on where that should be drawn.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you point out the hypocrisy and the circus that is the Republican Party on gun rights. Just, it so easily unravels. And again, John, if you were in Jake Tapper's position asking these questions and watch when the primaries roll out and there's the so-called debate. Again, the Republican Party is so far to the right of where the average American is. And we know that supports background checks and red flag laws and all of these common sense, a ban on assault rifles as well, all the common sense things. And so people in the audience, it's just, I don't know who we're doing this for anymore. Like I seriously don't know. It is complete unreality to start the level, like to take anything that she's saying seriously.
100%. Well, because again, it is not designed to be taken seriously in the way that it's presented. It is presented by her and now by CNN as she is a serious candidate that is trying to win over voters so they will choose her instead of the other Republicans. That's crazy talk. That's not what she's trying to do at all. Let's just be clear about that. We were very critical of CNN for the way that they handled their CNN town hall. I know some people don't think that they should exist under any circumstances, and I understand the arguments that are made there. But if you're gonna have them, does it have to look the way that CNN's town hall looked? Does it have to be Donald Trump being allowed to absolutely steamroll people to mock sexual assault victims, his victims, by the way, while he is cheered on by hundreds of people who definitely own a red hat? I think that's an important question to ask. And according to interviews that have been conducted behind the scenes, the way that it ended up was not an accident at all. It was by design, by the specific design of CNN CEO Chris Licht, who Tim Alberta of The Atlantic does a little bit of setting the scene about Chris Licht taking over for CNN, what he wanted to accomplish as his mission and why that informed the CNN town hall that they did. So he says at one point, Licht had lost the confidence of his own newsroom. Because of this, he had come to view the primetime event with Trump as the moment that would vindicate his pursuit of Republican viewers while proving to his employees that he possessed a revolutionary vision for their network and the broader news media. That is definitely what his mission was. And how many CNN viewers do you think know that? Know that CNN has been actively trying for some time to win over right-wing viewers by bringing on discredited liars about things like elections and that sort of stuff to be on their panels, doing forums like this. It's not obvious to them necessarily. But anyway, he says that Trump and Licht spoke backstage before the town hall. Licht told him, have fun. And it does seem like Trump did in his defense.
Oh, he did.
So we're going to say Licht wasn't scared to bring a bunch of MAGA enthusiasts onto his set. He had remarked to his deputies in the days before the town hall about the extra Trumpy makeup of the crowd CNN was expecting, and he damn sure wasn't scared of Trump. The way to deal with a bully like Trump, he told his journalists, was to confront him with facts, as if that has ever been the solution to any problems. It should be in a reasonable world, but Chris Licht knows that that's not the world we live in. So after the event, speaking to Tim Alberta, he said he had no regrets about the extra Trumpy crowd or letting the audience cheer at will, or even devoting the first question to Trump's election lies, despite the fact that Trump was obviously gonna keep pushing the lie that he won. And that was all during the actual debate. He filled the crowd with Trump fans on purpose. He knew days in advance that's what they were gonna have. He doesn't mind it after the fact. But it was even just outside of the actual town hall that there were problems. A lot of people behind the scenes at CNN noticed that the pregame and postgame panels were stocked with people that normally aren't on there, specifically seemingly to appeal to Donald Trump. And it goes beyond even that. At one point during the pregame show, the words sexual abuse appeared on the CNN Chyron. One of Licht's lieutenants phoned the control room. His instructions stunned everyone who overheard them. The Chiron needed to come down immediately. I will remind you, Donald Trump had been found culpable for sexual abuse. A massive story, not disputable, that they could not accurately report on because of Chris Licht and his team. Francesca, what do you think?
This story I think was fascinating. The entire Atlantic profile of Chris Licht, and like it's just sort of another like cavalier corporate suit who wants to make his legacy and thinks he's the one that's gonna pull the sword from the stone. He's got it all figured out. Yeah, I got it. Okay, I'm coming over from the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Calm down. I can do this. And no, he fell into the literal sand trap that we all saw was there, that's been there for years, and there he is writhing around in it. And you got it at the end of this article, which I think everyone should read. Nothing really surprised me again, because it's just, yeah, we've known CNN's been trying to do this pivot for a while, but why? It's Zaslav. It's David Zaslav, the head of CNN and Time Warner Discovery. I don't know what the new thing is, that conglomerate that's pulling the strings ultimately, that's telling him what he wants and where he wants to go with it. And Chris Licht is trying to be like, no, it's me. I wanted to do a new thing, and apparently he doesn't have any kind of personal pizzazz or sort of camaraderie in the newsroom to sell any of the things that he's trying to do. So again, it's just sad and predictable, and like Americans are the ones who get screwed over by this. Here's the thing about trying to I'm gonna confront it with fact. Yeah, it's like if a bully is telling you like, hey, you wear your mom's panties, and you're like, good point. But interestingly, my mother's panties are actually in her drawers in her room, and I do not have access to those drawers because my underwear are in my drawers. Anyway, I win. Like, oh yeah, you just confronted it real good with fact. No, the only way to confront Trump, if you're mainstream news, which they'll never do, is to bully him back, is to actually kind of call him names and call him on his BS, and then cut his mic if he lies to you. But because they'll never do that, they understand the only thing they can do is just not air him, because otherwise they'd have to step out of their journalistic role and fight fire with fire.
Yeah, don't air him, or don't air him in an unfiltered live environment.
Of course.
Like if you want to do it pre-recorded and if you can't do it in real time, then take the time to respond to each of the lies that he's told, then maybe that would work. But also don't necessarily put a crowd of people to whoop and cheer like insane baboons in the room. Because again, it's like acting like, well, he makes a claim and we say a fact, and so it's even. No. First of all, his base doesn't care about the facts, which is a problem bigger than CNN, obviously, but it is definitely true. Making the false claim gets him what he wants. I loved your panties example. I would add, it's like if somebody shoots me in the chest and then I say, hey, that's illegal. They don't care. They shot you in the chest. Yep. They got what they wanted already. Yep. And he knows all of this. So it's actively dishonest rather than simply ignorant. Anyway, we'll see what happens to the next one. Maybe they'll be more responsible. Maybe Jake Tapper will be there. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna get to more news after our first break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay, really fast, a couple more comments. Yeatwood Max says, John keeps getting new haircuts and I don't handle change well. It's not a new haircut. I just did it slightly. I'm trying out different things in terms of my morning stuff. It's the same hair.
Just wear a wig. Just give.
I really
wigs.
should.
It's
I really should.
Now.
Anyway, in Starton Park Racing says King of Tokyo Google search up 13,000% in the last 3 minutes. It's a best-selling game. I'm not too worried about it, but it is very fun. If you haven't played board games before, or modern board games, I should say, very approachable, fun dice playing game. It's kind of like Yahtzee, but you're a gigantic monster wrecking Tokyo. That's basically
that sounds fun.
It's fun. It's fun. I can teach it to you sometime. Anyway, with that said. You'd have fun. I'm good at teaching. It would be so fun. Anyway, someday I'll teach Karina and then she'll win you over, I guess. Anyway, with that said, let's jump to this.
How are we governed? You can't continue to be pushed to the left and pushed to the right. Stay in that middle and pull people back to the middle.
It's notable that you're not ready to sign off that Joe Biden's been moving to the middle. You don't buy it?
Well, this here, I think Joe Biden, that's his inherent who he is. He's been pushed to the far left, and that far left is not basically where the country is. And the far right is not where the country is. Coming back to the middle, then we can continue to bring people to the middle and do our job.
Let's pause very briefly to just point out how continuingly convenient it is that under Joe Manchin's definition of what the center is, which I will remind you, if you're new to politics, you might not know this. When a politician or a member of the media says that something is the center, that's an attempt to define as reasonable what they already support. Did you know that? That the center is not like an objective thing, it's just whatever they say it is? That a moderate is not an objective thing. There are no characteristics that make you a moderate or not. It's just what the media agrees. And hey, what do you know? The center is a place where not a lot of crazy social stuff happens from either the left or the right, but the rich always get what they want. Isn't that convenient? Anyway, that's not where Joe Biden is, according to Joe Manchin. And this is said in the immediate aftermath of him signing a deal with Kevin McCarthy and getting many Democrats to sign on to this deal that cuts the federal government, despite the fact that all the Republicans have been able to do in terms of winning in government is getting an incredibly narrow majority in the House, wherein they got less votes than the Democrats because of the structural inequity of how we choose Congress people, the gerrymandering and all that. And he still went with the Republican plan, and that's not enough to get Joe Manchin on his side. We're gonna respond to some of his specific claims there, but what do you think?
It's just insane to me. Like, there is no winning him over. There isn't, no matter how many pens you give Joe Manchin that you just used to sign this bill, he will not give an inch. And it's exactly right. He does not, because Joe Manchin is afraid for his own reelection campaign in his own seat. So there's nothing that he could do. But you're absolutely right. He has moved to the center. He has rolled out the red carpet for Joe Manchin's particular and personal plans. And yet, no, nothing. Nope, yeah. It's never going to be good enough. He can never give him any kind of credit, because that's
Joe
not
Manchin
what he's about.
Just got his pipeline.
He just got his pipeline.
Worthless. It doesn't have any. No, he just gave him his pipeline. Full steam ahead. Toot on wrecking the climate. No credit whatsoever. And you are right that you would think that this would lead them to considering that he's moving towards the center. And I mean that both in the biased mainstream media way, but also the objective way. In the biased mainstream media way, he's working with the Republicans, which supposedly it's bipartisan. That is what the center is supposed to be. But also from what the center really is, it is a deal that is meant to benefit the rich. That's what it's designed to do. Cutting government spending doesn't help working Americans. I think that should be fairly obvious. It helps people who don't want their taxes to go up. And remember, we had talked as a country about the possibility of fixing the deficit and all of that, raising money, blah, 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 by raising taxes. They immediately cut that out of consideration, not coincidentally. So anyway, this is obviously moving towards the center in that it benefits the wealthy. But he also said that he needs to move away from the left. He needs to move away from radical democratic ideas because people don't support that stuff. Well, the cool thing that has come about just in the time from when Joe Manchin said that to now is they developed a thing called a poll. And with this new technology, we're able to actually figure out what people believe rather than just say for them what they believe. And it turns out that when you ask people about things, they actually think the government should be doing more than they are, including when they're polled about their concerns around global warming. People are very concerned. A great deal or a fair amount is at 65%. 43% believe that it will pose a serious threat in their own lifetime. Now, to be fair, they have been largely in support of this sort of thing going back a couple of decades. I guess they've backdated it since polls are brand new, as we pointed out. But that's what they believe on gun control. They think that gun laws should be more strict. That doesn't matter, and it hasn't mattered for the last 30 years where people have been saying that. It's never gonna happen. When you ask them about universal health insurance, they have been increasingly in support of universal health insurance. Briefly in the aftermath of the passage of Obamacare, it had flipped. That is not the case, and every year they're slightly more supportive than the year before. On gay marriage, they could not be more clear that they think that people should back off on trying to restrict that. And on legal protections for trans people as well. I keep being told by Fox News that trans activists are a super tiny minority and nobody cares about them and their interests beyond that. But that is not the case when you actually poll people, just in case someone from Joe Manchin's office is watching. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to be an activist, right? You just, I believe trans people should not be discriminated against and should live their lives. And yay. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on and let people, leave people alone. Give people that individual freedom and liberty. But I think the Manchin Biden unrequited love, if you will, is such an example of how we need a real democratic socialist in the White House. Like, we need someone eventually, right? Sooner rather than later, with a vision, with a plan to actually right this ship, to actually deliver for working Americans, to actually tax the rich, to actually rein in climate change, to enact a Green New Deal. We need all of these things because why? They're gonna be called a socialist anyway. There is no winning. If you steer the yacht of American capitalism minimally away from, hitting like a lifeboat of poor people. Like, if you just sort of steered away, everyone's like, oh my God, you're a communist. Like, that's what happens. So why don't we just fully avert disaster? Why don't we actually go in there with a plan? I do think Biden, look, a transitional president, yes. But not a transition to Kamala Harris, a transition away from fascism, a transition of like, hey, whoa, ooh, let's come away from that edge, folks. Hey, remember democracy? It's kind of cool. It's pretty broken in this country anyway. Yeah. And transition into someone who can actually enact a real vision. And Biden doesn't have one, and so you get Manchined.
100%, yeah. And they've been doing nothing. I mean, I'm only pointing this out, not because I'm surprised by it. They've been doing nothing during the couple of years of Biden to set us up for an actual progressive leader. Of course, they're not going to, but who have they tried to elevate? I mean, they've barely honestly even tried to elevate Kamala Harris. And I sort of understand that. Buttigieg, I guess, I don't know. What's the next generation? Who are they setting up to run in 2028?
Nobody.
I mean, there are plenty of people that could.
Yeah.
Once the establishment doesn't get to say, like technically we're supposed to have an actual election every 4 years. We're not gonna do that. Biden's just automatically the candidate, even though there's nothing that says that that's supposed to be the way. They're not gonna have that in 2028, but they're not setting us up for that. I guess Gavin Newsom. I don't know. Who are they promoting?
No, not even.
Anyway, with that.
Anyway.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah, well, that's another conversation.
100%, which I'm sure we'll be having someday. Anyway, with that said, why don't we move into maybe more positive news, sort of, at least temporarily until the Supreme Court gets involved. A Trump-appointed judge in Tennessee district court judge has ruled that Tennessee's anti-drag law is unconstitutional, which, considering how many states have already passed bans on drag or in the process of doing so, could be significant. Now, this is not obviously the last step. It will certainly be appealed, and we'll have to see what happens after that. We know the state of the federal judiciary, but it's pretty fascinating, particularly because, again, he was put there by Donald Trump. He says that the law is both unconstitutionally vague and substantially overbroad and encourage discriminatory enforcement. And that is all obviously true. I don't even think that the people who passed it would disagree with that. That's 100% the way that it was written and the way that they wanted it to be adjudicated. Judge Thomas Parker goes on to say, there is no question that obscenity is not protected by the First Amendment, but there is a difference between material that is obscene in the vernacular and material that is obscene under the law. Simply put, no majority of the Supreme Court has held that sexually explicit but not obscene speech receives less protection than political, artistic, or scientific speech. Look, I'm not a judge. That's pretty clear at this point, right? I would say the very concept of having a word like obscene is also intentionally vague and open to discriminatory enforcement. That's obvious at this point, right? That obscene just means whatever, I guess, the most conservative people in the judiciary want it to mean in a particular time. Yeah. But he's saying, I accept the obscene thing, but even that does not allow you to do this sort of ban. And I certainly have thoughts about this, but Francesca, I'll give you first crack at it.
No, I think it's a big blow. It's a huge blow to say that this is vague. And it's like, what? Oh, the law is whatever like makes you feel little tinglies when you see it, cause like either you're jealous or you're turned on. Like, that's not our problem. Like, the Constitution doesn't talk about that. There is nothing in it that's like, we shall obstruct you from feeling little tinglies. So, but again, they're trying to bring us back to these like a puritanical and simultaneously like authoritarian version of the United States, right? It's like, again, it's all the zombies, it's all the former Republican presidents zombified. So I'm very curious as what their response to this is gonna be. Because usually Trump appointed judges don't do this.
Yeah, no, usually not. I'm gonna give some responses before I give my response. So Friends of George's is a Memphis-based LGBTQ plus theater company. They filed a complaint in regard to the law. They said this win represents a triumph over hate. Similar to the countless battles the LGBTQ plus community has faced over the last several decades, our collective success relies upon everyone speaking out and taking a stand against bigotry. That is awesome. Representative Justin Jones, one of the Tennessee Three, says last night Tennessee's extreme drag show ban was struck down and ruled unconstitutional by a Trump-appointed federal judge. Tried to tell my Republican colleagues when they introduced it on the House floor, but yet again they had to find out. Happy Pride, y'all. Yes. I love that. Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson, a Republican, is one of the sponsors of the bill, says, sadly, this ruling is a victory for those who support exposing children to sexual entertainment. And Lauren Boebert says a federal judge has overturned the ban on child drag shows.
Oh my God.
Again, you know what's great is if it's hard to argue your position, just predefine yourself as already having one. This begs the question, why are people so determined to perform drag shows for kids that they'd go through the trouble of suing for the right? Something is very wrong. That's not at all what this is about. You're just making that up. I do think something is wrong when people would so willingly lie about things like this. But anyway, in terms of discriminatory and biased adjudication of this, were it to be established, I just want to say, and I talked about this in our production meeting, I understand that the right, their thing lately has been pretending that every word, for it to have any value, has to have one concrete specific meaning that never changes. But that's not how language works, and it never has. And as a demonstration of that, I'm not even gonna talk about gender. What are pants? Define pants. It must mean only one thing, right? Because that's how words work. No, there's lots of different types of pants. It's some sort of leg covering. It comes in many different lengths and materials and transparencies and how do you define what women's clothing is or men's clothing? That is just not a thing. And by the way, like the freaking out about people being exposed to like someone wearing a dress. Do you know that kids are legally allowed to go to the beach? Do you know how much less you can wear than a dress at the beach? Go to the beach and find out, actually. I'll wait. You run to the beach and see. Like all of this is so, it's not just that it's puritanical, Francesca. It's that it's obviously inconsistently, hypocritically puritanical. Because again, they're not trying to ban the child fashion shows and the, what do they call those?
The pageants
or whatever.
Yeah,
they're not trying to stop all this stuff. It is just about stopping drag specifically because they think they can get political mileage out of it.
Absolutely, and it's a massive distraction. And so this is huge. I mean, this will have ramifications, and Justin Jones is right. Happy Pride. Yes. Everybody go support your local drag queens. And yeah, your local drag show. Do the brunch, do the shows, have some fun.
Yeah. 100%. Okay, we're gonna take a break. When we come back though, Lauren Boebert is actually gonna pop up once again. And I just love this story, so stick around. We're gonna have some fun with it. By the way, really fast, during the social break, Francesca was showing off Blue Lizard Guts. Why do I have so much trouble saying that? Blue Lizard Guts, custom Funkos. And Blue Lizard Guts says, if anyone wants to watch me make them, I do so on my live stream. So it's on Twitch,
That's awesome.
Blue Lizard Guts. Amazing work. I honestly, I'm gonna keep it real. I have no idea how it's done. It kind of seems impossible. It seems like you'd have to carve them. I'm assuming that's not what it is, because they're so specific. I don't know, but anyway, you can check out the Twitch stream.
I just looked up my dress.
You and me both.
Wow.
You're so weird.
Only I
anyway,
can say it.
That's true. I apologize. Blue Lizard Guts, out of shame, I'm gonna be sending back the ones that you gave me. Anyway, with that said, lots of Dremel and sculpting. Okay, well, I wanna see one of the streams actually. Do you have any recorded ones? Anyway, with that said, we do have to have some fun, everyone. We are contractually obligated, so why don't we jump into this? Lauren Boebert's tried, as she always does, to look tough, to look smart, to look together and with it, and unfortunately fell short, made herself look like a fool. Here's how it began.
No excuses. I was ticked off. They wouldn't let me do my job, so I didn't take the vote. Once again, Washington's power machine shoved a multi-trillion-dollar bill down our throats, refused to allow debate or amendments, disregarded everything we fought for in January to actually allow representatives to do their jobs. And instead, they served us up a crap sandwich. Call it a no-show protest, but I certainly let every one of my colleagues and the country know I was against this garbage of a bill and against bypassing the voice of each representative. Deals cut in the dark are why we're headed towards $36 trillion in debt, and I refuse to be a part of it.
Oh, I love that so much for several different reasons. The first is I certainly let the whole country and my colleagues and my constituents know that I'm against this. No, you didn't. Actually, you know who did? The people who voted against it, which you did not. You didn't vote against it, so you're not against it. The ones who voted against it are against it. That's what being against something means. And I love that she says there, and she reiterates it. So you know this is a point that she's trying to drive home. In her tweet that accompanied that video, she says, call it a protest. She didn't write the please, but you can almost hear it. Call it a protest, please. Don't call it what it actually is, which many of you who follow politics on a daily basis, you already know where we're going with this. It wasn't a protest. It wasn't her expressing her frustration by not voting. She just didn't make it on time. Take a look at this.
They just closed it. They closed it? Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
Call it a protest. Don't call it what it is. I was late. I wanted to vote against it. I was late. I didn't vote against it. It looks irresponsible, so I'm gonna pretend that I was being tough. Please call it a protest instead. That's all this is, Francesca.
That is amazing. That footage is so good.
My principles.
This is why you wear flats, you wear flats and then maybe leave whatever gun that you're strapped with, Boebert.
Well, she dropped her gun several times in front of a school, so she had to run back and get it.
Yeah. It was the whole thing.
Yeah.
I love that also the video she recorded was like, she pulled over to the side of the road, driving back to, her district or wherever, or like on a trip, pulled over the side of the road, found a hat in the back of her truck or in her car and just put it on backward. Like, I love that, just the entire thing, how we're gonna spin this. But yeah, it's so pathetic because this is someone who actually desperately wants to be taken seriously. She wants to be in there and cast a vote. Who doesn't, right? Somehow by the skin of your teeth, you got reelected, Boebert. You better make the vote. And oopsies. And man, I hope her voters hear the clinkety clanking of those heels going desperately up the steps. Because yeah, the one thing that she's supposed to do, be there on time, she could not do. Right? She's managed to make it on all of her other grandstanding opportunities on her committee appointments where she immediately undermines herself by whatever dumb point she's making. But no, not this one.
100%. Yeah, I don't. She wants to be AOC.
Yes.
More than you or I want anything.
Yes.
She just wants to be like knowledgeable and quick-witted and good at communicating, and she just doesn't have it. And I will say this, by the way, while Boebert's office didn't respond to a request for comment, sort of understandably so, the fact that she missed the vote, I honestly don't care. Like, if I was in Congress, I would miss votes probably. It seems like a lot to have to know, and like you always have to be there, and sometimes they change. I'm not even getting down on her for that. It's the lie. Just say I missed it because I was out advocating against the bill and time got away from. Be honest for once in your stupid little life. But she couldn't do that. And so she turned something that would not have been a big issue, which by the way, even Ted Lieu says things happen. Virtually no member of Congress has made all the votes in their career. What is unusual is to lie about it. That's the issue. Being late could almost be like it could be personable. It could be like, it makes you seem more like a real person.
Right.
But instead you decided to try to score points and you look like a fool because it's so obvious you're lying. That video of her running up the stairs was available before the other video she put out. She was setting herself up for it. Anyway, that's why she's not AOC. She just doesn't have it. Okay, with that said, let's jump into a little bit more fun to close out this hour. Donald Trump isn't often criticized by a lot of Republicans all at once, but this time, this last weekend, he is actually, because over the weekend, the country of North Korea was elected to the executive board of the World Health Organization, which is its own whole issue or whatever, but it happened. And so Donald Trump decided to bleat, "Congratulations to Kim Jong Un." So he's very excited for him. And the thing about that is that Kim Jong Un is a vicious, murderous dictator, which isn't a problem to Trump historically, but some people take issue with that. And so here is Ron DeSantis like expressing concern.
What'd you make of Trump congratulating Kim Jong Un?
I was surprised to see that. I mean, I think one, Kim Jong Un is a murderous dictator. They just imprisoned for life a family, including an infant, which is just outrageous. And then the World Health Organization's a bankrupt organization. Like, Kim Jong Un's bad, but then joining that, we need to be getting out of that and rejecting the WHO lockdown treaty and not congratulating about being involved in the WHO.
Do you think Trump has the temperament?
Okay, so he started off attacking Donald Trump and he got to, we should not be involved in any of these public health organizations. So that's great. But anyway, the criticizing Trump, Francesca, I think is totally reasonable. But him acting surprised, why are you surprised that Trump is congratulating a dictator for something? Dude has had more nice things to say about dictators than any of his kids for the last 7 years.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting follow-up, right? It's like, okay, so if you're criticizing Kim Jong Un, what do you think about Vladimir Putin and his war on Ukraine? Because your party seems to think it's kind of chill, and Trump seems to think that it's also chill, and that if he were there, the war would be wrapped up. And also, like, I love that we're sort of casting, look, yes, Kim Jong Un is a dictator. It is heinous and awful, but what if those children were imprisoned for being woke? Did you ever think about that? I mean, seriously, what if a mother had an abortion there? Like, it is a slippery slope, but that is exactly what we're being told isn't happening in this country by the likes of Ron DeSantis. And that's what Florida is turning into, a place where you criminalize speech, where you criminalize everyday activities, and where you allow it, so you go after your political enemies like you breathe air.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I don't know what the family is alleged to have done, but it's obviously barbaric to lock up a family for life, including an infant. That's crazy. Follow-up question though, you do think that the family should be locked up, that their kid should be taken away if they help the kid with like hormones, right? Mm-hmm. Just to be clear, you think that that's totally cool, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was Ron DeSantis. Here's Nikki Haley, another serious contender for the Republican nomination. Take a look at this.
Kim Jong Un is a thug. And if you see what he has done to his own people in North Korea, when money went to North Korea, it didn't go to feed their people, it went to feed their nuclear program. There's nothing good or decent about Kim Jong Un. There's no reason we should ever congratulate the fact that they are now vice chair of the World Health Organization. And it goes to the fact that also the World Health Organization is a farce to start with. We saw that during COVID.
So it did bother you, and you didn't like his congratulating of Kim Jong Un, and you didn't like how he dealt with him.
I don't think we ever should congratulate dictators. Congratulate our friends. Don't congratulate our enemies. It emboldens them when we do that.
Ooh.
Yeah, look, you could say, well, obviously the people of North Korea have had multiple instances of massive starvation, illness outbreaks and stuff like that. So having North Korea involved in groups like the WHO might be good for the people of North Korea, even if it could lead to more corruption, more money going to the elites. So you could like have a debate about that or whatever. She's right that like specifically congratulations to Kim Jong. Why? That's not just it. The issue isn't just that he's congratulating a dictator. Congratulating a leader for something like that just seems really weird. Anyway,
yeah.
And again, she had to attack the WHO.
But that's
quick final thought.
Quick final thought is that she just took herself out of the running to be vice presidential nominee, because not with that attitude, I think that isn't interesting. Like I don't know what Nikki Haley is doing, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know how she thinks that she's going to get chosen off of Carrie Lake or Marjorie Greene or someone more enthusiastically crazy than her.
Yes.
Anyway, that is all the time we have for the first hour of the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We've got a lot more to come, including our interview with Matt Dugan coming up after this break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Adarola. I'll see you soon.